Vlog 3B. This is Debbie. I'm going to be discussing the last vlog section that I have for this week, and that will be from the Subjective and Social Reconstruction, Chapter 8, that we were assigned to read. So, for Vlog 3B, I'm going to be talking about William F. Pinar analysis, or should I say, discussion on Chapter 8. So without further ado, I'm going to get ahead and get started. So Pinar analyzed the many arguments and inputs Nussbaum, I think that's how you pronounce it, contributed in the education discourse. While Pinar shares the same enthusiasm for multicultural understanding in education with Nussbaum, he doesn't endorse the idea that it is for every student. So what Nussbaum was talking about in most of the reading that Pinar was trying to analyze was kind of, it's not just almost like a one size fit all thing, but on the, I want to say the social end of it, something like that. I think one of the biggest thing was cultivation of empathy. I know Pinar was kind of, he was for it, but he didn't think it was for every student to. It doesn't fit for every student. That students need to be their curriculum needs to be meant for some students, but not for the others. Um, and he posed this question a lot, which was what knowledge is most worth? What is the knowledge that is most significant to teach our students in general? Um, and throughout the reading, he did try to explain ways, or should I say, research from other authors on how we can approach education in the future, in the present as well, and also looking back to what we already had. Um, um, he mentioned that a thread of our life experience, in order to have a successful education, kind of is looking at the lived experience of students and teaching them from that, and which is kind of what we've been talking about throughout this program of teaching students from the experiences in the environments that they live in, at least with ethnic study classes that we've had. So it's not surprising to see that even much older authors and researchers have already mentioned these and seen how beneficial it is to tap into the students' environments as well as their experiences to better teach them instead of relying on a standardized curriculum that generalizes and puts every student in a box, which is not really an attainable thing. So I think when he mentioned Pinar quoted Pasolini that essentially learning through experience is called free indirect subjectivity. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I do know that the subjectivity that they were talking about is looking within ourselves, something like that. Like, again, our experiences and our environment and whatnot. He did mention that the arts are just as important, if not more significant, as the maths and sciences, as it is as it is the key to cultivate intellectual and emotional rich plays. They talked mostly about like plays as in ideas of how we can teach students. So I really liked that, and they also mentioned that poetry is a good way to start when we're trying to initiate some type of intellectual and emotional rich plays into students. And they did mention a lot of poetries and poets that are useful in our education system. And then the second part of the reading was reactivating the past, something like that, which is mostly he focused on how our society uses social engineering to manipulate present circumstances, um, like saying the best is yet to come when we're just making promises but never actually fulfilling any of them. It's like trying to fool people into believing in something that's never going to happen. The best is yet to come is a phrase that has been used for so many decades of even in sports or just, but it's interesting that it's being used in schools where we see our education system plummeting every year. I don't understand what they mean by the best is yet to come, but where is the best? Like the teachers and other educators have been trying to improve our education system, but politicians and businessmen are trying to find ways to profit from it. So does that mean that profiting from it is the best? I guess it's the best for them, but not necessarily for the students or the teachers. So I found that very interesting too. I didn't really like any of it, so whatever. Um, so curriculum theory, he mentioned, seeks the truth of the present, not profiteering. So obviously, we want to educate students of what's to come, of what they actually have here that's in front of them, and not focusing on trying to sell them out and only selling them standardized testing just so we can make profits for ourselves, which is really rude and pretentious of educators to even try to participate in that kind of disgusting, I don't know, practice. Um, Figuring out how to raise students' scores on standardized tests, like I mentioned, is one of those social engineering. We're basically teaching students to cram throughout the semester, throughout the year, just so they can pass or be proficient in these standardized tests without actually engaging them in discussions or giving them actual knowledge of the subject that they are learning. Um, and one of the ways that he said, Pinar mentioned, was to prepare, at least to, in order to, again, add on to the betterment of our education system, is to prepare teachers, um, to learn and understand where students are coming from. Or let me just quote him: preparing teachers is the project of academic understanding. Um, we must take into account that teachers are not the ultimate solutions. Student learning is also needed to be successful in education. Like students also have to take accountability for their education. The burden should not be just laid on teachers, because I don't I hate the fallback that when a student fails, it's always the teacher's fault. I found it very disgusting that they mentioned LA when they had surveyed LA teachers, or they saw the scores of the LA school district teachers, and they listed them in a public newspaper where um, essentially the students were doing bad in the standardized test. So they put all the burden on the teachers and tried to shame them using the newspaper, which I think is very rude and inconsiderate, and also very malicious. So why put the blame on the teachers when the students are also, they also have to be able to learn. They want to, if they want to learn, they have to put in effort. You can only teach people so much. Unless they want to learn, then they do learn. That's what I think is happening here. And teachers can only do so much for their students. And also, he mentioned that school became a business. So this is where teachers and students basically lost to politicians and businessmen, because they turned it into something almost like a profitable business, like prisons, where it was supposed to be for everyone to come in and learn and get education, get teachers paid, and also, I guess, improve our society. But it has become um, a business place basically. It's not about students learning anymore. It's more about, oh, who can get more funding and who can using a standardized test. The third part of the reading, what I got from it was that schools are always to blame for setbacks, but politicians and businessmen are never to blame for those things. Like I already mentioned before, schools became a business, and then teachers and students kind of lost out on that. Um, and every time a student fails or a school's not doing so well, they always blame the student. They always blame the teachers, but never the businessmen or the politicians. Um, I kind of liked the way when he said that a school reform basically became school deform, because essentially that's what's happening right now. Not only is this unjust to students and teachers, it is disastrous for democracy in general, because now education is seen as less than, even though it's still sought after by so many people, and it's the place for where parents take this to kids to when they leave the home to go and learn. But it's kind of, I guess, not even thought of as something helpful anymore. The fourth part of the reading, which is Find in the Future, was what I got from it was the standardized test driven curriculum depersonalizes students and teachers, as it splits up the curriculum from subjective attachments. Students now only learn for the sake of their grades and not for actual long-term knowledge, which is similar to the banking system of learning, that they're just regurgitating what they're told and that's it. And as soon as they finish the test or pass or not, that they don't remember what they've learned. I kind of experienced that when I was in Korea. I remember all the students in my econ classes, they were just memorizing the functions, or should I say the formulas that we needed. But as soon as we were done with the exams, none of them actually remembered what happened. Um, I'm going to use one of my friends as an experience. He's been studying English for almost 17 years now, but he still doesn't understand or speak on the level that he think he should have been. This is because he only needed English to pass, like his grades and whatnot, like to just to pass his classes. So I kind of relates to that too, where students are just learning for the grades and not for the actual knowledge. Generally, I think um, this kind of ties back to everything that we've been talking about. Teaching students with their experience and where they come from. Sorry, I'm kind of like losing it right now. But the last thing that I want to talk about is that until public school acknowledges that teachers are not solely responsible for student learning, public school will continue to deform. And that's all I have for today. Thank you.